All right, note to self: I gotta shave after I do this review. I've been so busy. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to about 31 days of Hollywood. I'm sorry, Hollywood. Excuse me, Halloween horror movie review. This is day nine, and I went into the vault on this one. My vault on movies. These are movies that have always stuck with me since I was a kid. When I say a vault, the vault, I'm talking about something that brought back childhood memories with my family, myself, back when I was a kid in the 90s and 2000s. I'm a 90s baby, in case you don't know. And this was a movie that I watched repeatedly because it was on TV networks repeatedly. This was not a movie I could watch the regular DVD because it was rated R. And as a kid, I wasn't allowed to do that. But I don't know if you remember this. Who remembers TBS Superstation, TNT, and like USA, those evening, like in the evening, where they had all these, it was like the same movies on repeat, whether it was this movie I'm about to talk about, which is Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea with Samuel Jackson, Thomas Jane, which is the first Punisher movie I ever seen, was him. LL Cool J. Anyway, that's the movie I'm going to be talking about. But it was that movie, it was Die Hard, it was Lethal Weapon, a couple of Home Alone 1 and 2. Like, it was those kind of movies on repeat, bro. Deep Blue Sea was one of them. That was like me and one of the reasons that it was a good memory was because that was my brother and I. That was our first introduction to horror movies. I said this before. When I was a kid, we wasn't really allowed to watch horror. It wasn't a thing. A lot of it back then was rated R. So I knew about Freddy and Jason, but I didn't watch it because we wasn't allowed to. Actually, I do remember one time I watched Chucky. And it was only because my parents didn't know what it was. And so, like with your parents, I don't know if y'all had these moments where your parents like, yeah, go ahead and watch it. You with your cousins or whatever, they walk away and they thinking it's a doll. They ain't thinking much of it. And they come back at like the worst moment of the movie where Chucky is saying some explicit nonsense. And they're like, what is this? Is this the same movie we said you could watch? And we knew what Chucky was, but we was like, they told us we could watch it. So we'd be like, yeah, you told us to watch. You said it was okay. I was so glad it never asked, did we know what Chucky was? All they said, well, don't turn that off. Thank God it was like near the end, so I knew what, for the most part, the first one was about. But anyway, Deep Blue Sea was a huge gem, and I haven't seen it in years. And so I went into my vault, and I was like, let's watch this. Let's see if I have that same feel of the movie as I did back then. And I must say, it holds up to this day. 2025. This movie came out 1999, I believe. Hold up. 1999 horror sci-fi, but and it holds up really well. Obviously the shark CGI is a little bit off, a little bit, but not too much. I'm gonna say something that is probably gonna be controversial, but I always felt this way because I've seen both. I believe Deep Blue Sea has always been better than Jaws. I know Jaws has the famous title, has the famous music, and it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, Jaws is a good movie, but while Jaws is a famous name, I think Deep Blue Sea was the better movie. In my opinion. Like, I'm gonna have to, in this 31 days, maybe I'll add Jaws. I'll add Jaws into the list of movies I'll be watching in these 31 days. But from my remembrance, I remember saying that Deep Blue Sea always gripped me more than Jaws as a full movie, as a film. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. The situation you're in, where in this movie, certain people decided to experiment with these three sharks, with this one shark in particular, and everything went downhill. It all went downhill the moment a shark snapped, because it was quiet for a minute as people was doing tests on it. Then it snapped and turned around out of nowhere and bit one of the scientist's arm off. And that started a whole occurrence because, yeah, after that, the shark with his two friends decided, you know what, nah, we're not stuck in here with y'all. Y'all stuck in here with us because these people had this facility where the sharks were staying in there. They couldn't get out in the ocean for good reason, too. But after that moment, the shark was like, nah, me and my friends, we're going to show you what it's like being around us. We're going to experiment on you. And I think they did a good job with it. The claustrophobic feel where you're trying to survive in a tight area because also the area they're in is being flooded. So not only are they trying not to drown, they got to make sure these sharks are not popping up anywhere. And then on top of it, these sharks are smarter than the average shark, you know. So they're strategizing against these humans, outsmarting them. And I don't know. I just thought it was the best shark horror movie, in my opinion. Have I seen every single one? No, but from what I've seen, yes, Jaws is on the Mount Rushmore. But personally, I could be, you know, you might think differently. And I like Jaws, but personally, I would put Deep Blue Sea over Jaws. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about that. Now, I have to give Samuel Jackson a lot of credit because I will, in case you didn't see the movie's been out for a while, but in case you didn't see it, I'm not going to spoil it because this moment was a big deal. It actually shocked a lot of us and put a lot of points up in Deep Blue Sea when it came to ratings. But there's this one moment Samuel Jackson has that I got to give him a lot of credit because in that time, Samuel Jackson was killing it, bro. He was in Negotiator, which was another TBS TNT movie on repeat. Negotiator, Die Hard with a Vengeance. This movie, I mean Shaft. He was movie after movie after movie, and so he was. I don't know if that was his peak, but he was working and on big time films. And for him to do this certain thing is something that you wouldn't expect a top tier actor to do at that time. And I always give him credit for it because I ain't gonna front, that was one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. It was like, whoa, what the heck? And for Samuel Jackson to sign off on that, I give him a lot of credit because you're here to make a movie, you're here to make a film, you're here to entertain us. You know, it ain't about, oh, I'm the big time actor, I don't do that kind of stuff. No, he was like, let's do it. And I thought it was cool. It was a cool idea. There was this one moment that LL Cool J had against one of the sharks. I always thought that was cool. The relationship between LL Cool J and his bird. It was a lot of elements outside of just the horror of the sharks that was really good. Like I said, the cast and their setup was good. The annoying scientist, like this lady, she was annoying as heck. She actually caused a lot of these issues, but it fit perfectly. The Punisher, I always like calling him the Punisher, but him, I mean, everything worked in my opinion. Everything. I'm thinking about, I was watching it again. I'm like, there was nothing flawless. There was nothing flawed in this movie, in my opinion. I mean, it didn't have a famous song like Jaws did, but it didn't need it. You know what I'm saying? It stood on its own for the intensity, the thrill, the horror of the sharks. It stood on its own. And the characters, the chemistry between the characters, it didn't need all that extra stuff. So anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's day 9. What will be 10? You have to find out tomorrow. All right, I'll see y'all later. Oh yeah, by the way, how do you feel when I do this in the videos? Let me know in the comments below.